We can
I gotta have a word with if everyone else
Lorcana
can know their
go-
demand
Lorcana
and
is going.
Ravensburger's got
I've been
no
saying this the whole
freaking
time.
clue, I gotta have a word with Ravensburger.
So, all right, we ready?
We're gonna tell me the topics.
You said you didn't need to know.
Yeah. I know.
Welcome to May This Be With You, America's most favorite Lorcana and sometimes MTG podcast, where we only discuss the games going to the moon, like Lorcana. I'm first joined by America's #1 most favorite bully, Josh.
I thought I was gonna be the #1 best Lorcana content creator.
You are still that, and if you have not become a member of Josh's,
All right, hold on. We have
yet,
to stop this. We have to stop this. No more of this.
Go
Awkward.
become a member right now. It's $5. That's
Makes
like
me feel
one
awkward.
half of a Lorcana pack. I am, of course, joined by the man with
Bless.
all the scoopies of sorcery. If you don't believe me, check last week. Louis DeGeorge.
Yeah, I got that one. I looked like an idiot last week. That's fine.
No, you did
Yeah.
exactly what I expected you to do.
And we are finally joined by George, who finally made the time for the podcast.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was
job,
fighting a
George.
hurricane last week.
Oh, it wasn't even that bad.
Thank you for your concern, everybody, by the way.
I think it's weird that you think you can just come and go as you please now. You really don't take this very seriously any longer.
Also, we didn't even talk about why you were gone last week. I'm not even sure we mentioned that you were gone.
I know you didn't because nobody reached out. I was like, oh, I thought like a month ago, they all thought I was dying. This week, I'm fighting a hurricane with my bare hands, and nobody even thinks about it.
Just know we were rooting for the hurricane.
Yeah.
You and a whole community.
Oh man.
Shout out to Genesis.
I love I love how much the media overplays all that stuff too. And it's like,
Oh my God! Wait, don't! I don't want to be a hurricane victim
Here we
hater
go!
podcast.
Here we
I'm
go!
out. Thanks.
Welcome to May the Zoo be with you. It's
Actually, do
conspiracy
subscribe to me
time.
because I'm getting canceled now. Thanks.
we've got an election coming up. I can't wait for November.
Oh my God! Are you running?
No.
Christensen to George.
Just
2024?
Next year's November podcasts we're gonna make lots of jokes. It's gonna be great.
Would you be my VP?
Yeah, of course I would. But I would be
that's
running
fine.
against you as well for the president. All right, hey, everybody. Sorry, I'm supposed to keep us on track. I'm doing a terrible job. Well, that was the intro.
I have no clue what's even happening. If it helps any.
We're going to talk about the TCG industry downtrends. We're going to
Turn it
talk.
down.
George is going to be obnoxious about Lorcana the entire video, so that's fine. Give him his win. It's good. We're going to talk about the Wilds release, which was really good. And we're going to talk about Doctor Who. We have scoopies from our sponsor, MVP Sports and More.
God, how have they not sponsored us? It is such a natural fit.
We have Lorcana to 1K. And we have the sorcery delay. Those are our. Is that everything?
Is this the first time we've said Lorcana to 1K?
No, it is not.
Okay, because if it was, I have the first piece of actual advice to everybody. If we say Lorcana to 1K, everyone sell your product.
Yeah,
right
that's
now. If you're
the way
holding
to
on to
handle
any
it, for sure.
product, if you have singles, sell it all. You can visit gamegrove.gg and sell it to Louis,
Gamer
whatever
Grove.
it might be. Just get rid of it if we say it's going to 1K.
I agree. I think that's a very valid situation. It seems like that's like how it always goes. All right, we'll talk about Lorcana later in the positive EV side of the podcast. On this side of the podcast, we're talking about all the things that are downtrending, which is everything other than Lorcana. Because Lorcana is GOAT and everything is perfect and there's no issues.
I love it. I love it. I love it so much.
I can't eat a chicken wing, George, because I'm not eating any gluten or carbs.
Wait, gluten or carbs or both? Or
I'm doing the carnivore diet, but plus berries.
Are you following the 9 ancestral
Liver
tenets
King?
or whatever it is?
Not
Are you-
raw meat.
are you-
I've lost 10 pounds in 15 days.
are you like a fat liver king?
Let's
I
go,
eat
dude.
steak twice a day. It's the best.
Oh my!
diet.
All right,
It is
your
the
YouTube
best.
channel makes too much money. Let's talk about Magic. This
You're
is
gonna die of a
ridiculous.
heart attack
This
for
is
weighing
insane.
pounds.
Wait, Louis,
Okay.
low key, I'm doing the same thing.
I am not going to be the guy that keeps us on topic today, Brad. I'm just letting
I
you-
got this.
You're never
I
that
got
guy.
this.
That guy is
because
always Josh. That guy is always Josh. That is never you.
it's hard to argue against him when he pumps me up, dude. It's tough. It's tough. It's hard
so
to do.
not true.
You are never
hard
the
to
one
do.
to keep us on track.
Oh.
I'm kind of the goat.
All right, TCG downtrends. Josh, you have a video coming out on Thursday. Give us a little spoiler today on Wednesday night for us. Give us a little
Well, this
spoiler.
podcast comes out the day after.
Well,
the
I know,
video
but
drops.
us. Give us a spoiler. Lead us in, baby. I'm trying to set you up.
He's going to steal your
Listen, man,
content, Josh. Be careful.
I already made this video. He's stealing my content.
There's a twist. There's a twist. So I hypothesize that the real world is coming back and has been for some time. We're all about to get smacked in the face with a bit of reality. So I want to talk to you guys about the fact that for the last half decade now, it's felt like the TCG success, our love for the game and what we're going to be involved in has been completely tied to financial value. It just feels like it has 100% been all about the dollars, all about the cents. And that's weird for me because, listen, I make sales data content quite a bit. But do you think these games are going to have to start becoming more? Are they going to have to pull at consumers and pull at people in a much more meaningful way to keep people engaged, especially with Magic coming out with a new set every month and indie TCGs being the up and down rocky road that they are?
So explain to me where you are in 5 years. Like why back to 2018? No, why back to 2018? Like what metric?
The real answer is anything before COVID.
Yeah, like that's what I'm curious on.
Well, it just seemed like even before COVID, it seemed like things were kind of rapidly on the uptick, and Rudy and that community was getting more popular, and the idea of cardboard investing was really coming
Rudy
around.
Changed the universe of TCGs.
Sure.
Other people were collecting, but he's the one that made it mainstream.
Yeah.
I tend to think that this will end poorly.
Well, so that's what I'm saying. And for these games to stick around, it's going to have to be about more than that.
Oh, I think it's absolutely true. I think I don't think people remember what life was like before COVID when it comes to TCGs.
That's
Louis and I have had a long talk today about Pokemon.
Yeah,
it was actually a very nice talk my had, Louis. You weren't as hyperbolic and defensive as you normally were about Pokemon. Thank you for that.
I've been really working on myself lately.
I can tell. Good job, Carol. The goat.
Carol doesn't have anything to do with it. It's like, what did I pay her for? You know?
Therapists are a scam. The Louis George story.
I don't know. Yeah. The whole time it was the 4 to 5 candy bars I was eating a day.
Well, that would have been where my money lives too.
I just want candy.
I didn't carry Pokemon before COVID. I would special order a case if somebody wanted a case, but that was it. You lived on Magic, you died on Magic. Most stores still carried Pokemon, but it wasn't a big mover, wasn't a quick mover. I mean, we're going back to it. I don't expect to get any cuts on any TCG from distribution for the near future.
Mm-hmm.
I now have to order exactly what I need and no more and no less.
Sure.
And so that's going to change the way prices fluctuate.
Yeah, and
at the end
I
of the
think
day,
there's a reckoning.
Is exactly right. If this is what we've been saying all year in this podcast, if people aren't playing your game, you're probably screwed.
Yeah.
The Tendy season is over. Jordan from a really great podcast called The Bone Zone, Scheming Skeleton, he had the clip last month of the era of Tendies is over or something, and he's exactly right. The era of gameplay is here, and the question is can these games keep players and grow them?
Yeah. And
candidly, so far the answer has been no. So far the answer is they'll all lose players to Magic, except for one popular Disney game, but that one's been out for about 5 minutes. So let's hold off.
So, I think there's a lot of truth there in what you're saying. I think another thing, especially going back to 2018, is the for Magic particularly is the lack of MSRP.
Yeah.
And George and I were talking about this today too. Josh may have been on with us, but where the MSRP is gone, but also Wizards seems to be. George said this. Wizards seems to be testing out how much of the money they can take from stores. What is the highest? What is the lowest margin stores will continue to buy stuff at? And this is where I think the reality is sinking in for me. Is the world is so much different. You have Whatnot. You have all these online only retailers, and how do you how do you not have how do you have MSR? How do you have a product that is supposed to be sold at stores but also being sold on Amazon direct to consumer at like lower prices than the store cost? And I think like those are the type of things that really influence the downtrends that we are seeing now. And then the pandemic bit really expedited that because they started that, but then they couldn't get supply anywhere, right? Like the whole market blew up on supply. So it's kind of like the mix of that.
So I think there's been some emotional shift as well around the trading card game, in the trading card game space, in the cardboard space. And this is a big pillar of my argument, is the fact that when I started getting back into Magic, I was the typical leave Magic forever, come back. I was like, when I spent $100 on a booster box, this was before a kid. We had a house at a great rate and no kids, like 2 jobs. I felt like I had to tell my wife I spent $100, and I did it with like my tail between my legs. Now, and I know that I'm further in the rabbit hole now with an entire YouTube channel and a wall of stuff behind me and things like that. But I recently spent, $3,000 buying.
You spent it on a good game. Like that's
I spent it buying trading card game products, and it makes me nervous.
What game
but
was it?
I was just okay with that. I just like accepted that as okay. And
but
I would
part
have
of that
never
is your
been-
life has changed in 5 years too. You are, what are you, 32 now? How old are you?
34? I'm 33 or 34.
So like there's a kind of a difference in 5 years. You know what I mean? Like,
But like
I don't
my
know.
job is relatively the same. My income scale, I mean, there's raises and stuff like that come every year in moving job, but my income scale is relatively the same. And listen, we all know what daycare costs. Like, well, okay, one of us on this podcast know what daycare costs, and I would have never fathomed drop. Yeah, that's why I said what. I would have never fathomed drop this money. But I think that's part of a bigger like emotional shift and this acceptance of the space that will be, in my opinion, the first thing to go when the world gets real again.
So let me tackle something that Louis said. We go back to our conversation. Like the big wizard experiment, the last, I would say, 18 months has been one thing: how much of the pie can they eat? Right? If a booster box has $200 of value, can they take 150, 180, 120? How much of that $200 of value can Wizards gobble up? Which is, the reverse of that is how much can I leave on the table for others?
Yeah.
And like what they have found, candidly, I think at least, is that they can gobble up a lot of it.
Well,
and that just leaves less and less for everybody else, mainly your local game store.
And consumers. Like, I don't want to get away. Like, the consumers are who's listening to this, probably not as much the stores. And like, it does. The problem is like consumers don't know where to buy their product anymore. They don't. This is why you have Amazon and you get boxes that are tampered with and opened and whatever, because they're fleecing out the store. So I have a question for you two. Do you think, I think we're all in agreement that the 95% of stores can't survive without Magic?
Sure.
Maybe we'll call it 85. There's a couple of those like weird Pokemon only, like in LA and that kind of stuff. 85% of stores can't survive without Magic. Is it Magic's responsibility to keep the LGS afloat?
If they believe that they need it. But the weird part about that is, to use a quote from you that I truly believe in. If Wizards disappeared and they stopped printing sets, Magic would lose players. They'd lose people collecting the game, obviously. But there would still be games. People would just continue to play with the cards that have existed for 30 years.
Yeah.
So if Magic, and this is the scary part, if Wizards of the Coast just determines we're a Commander product now, and not just like they are now, they're not just leaning in, but like that's the only way to play Magic. Why do they need the game store? Right? Like Pokemon arguably doesn't need the local game store.
Right.
It's not necessary. So I guess it depends on where they see themselves. If they see themselves being more than Kitchen Table Commander, then I believe the game store is a necessity and one that they are greatly neglecting. But if in that boardroom they say, Louis, George, we don't need you, then things could get dark, and things could get dark quick from that side of the counter.
George?
So, so it's very funny. I was talking to somebody in Louis' Discord about watches last night, and we talked about Rolex. And probably 30-40% of my local jewelers' watch deals are from Rolex. But probably 80% of the people that go in looking for a watch are looking for a Rolex. So then you have to say, I'm out of Rolex. Do you want an Omega? Do you want a Grand Seiko? And the same thing is true for Magic. Magic is the gateway. Everybody comes into the store looking for Magic, which is why indie TCGs have such an uphill battle, because it's up to the store to say, actually, I will sell you Magic, but I'll also sell you Lorcana. I'll also sell you Sorcery. I'll also sell you Cryptic. I'll also sell you Genesis. Just kidding. So
Shots fired.
You have to. Magic weirdly needs the LGS, but it's also the only funnel to their competitors.
Well, and it works. I think it also works the other way, where people come in to. I think a lot of the people. One of the best things about Lorcana right now, in my opinion,
I think Lorcana is different. I agree with that.
Well,
Lorcana
is the number of people who are coming into the TCG world who have never played Magic, never been in LGS, never been there, and they will eventually. Some of them will move on to Magic and to other games, and that's a huge win. I think that's certainly happening.
Live by Lorcana, die by Lorcana. But nobody's ever coming to us. We're looking for Sorcery, and you're like, oh, let me tell you Magic instead. Lorcana is the exception, not the rule.
I don't think anyone does that, but I have seen firsthand indie TCG communities that were getting together that weren't really Magic players, but constantly dunked on Magic because that was the trend of the indie TCG community, and then they I know nothing about your speaking, Josh. They moved over, and then as their game diminished and there wasn't enough players, or the group got smaller, they're now at Friday Night Magic. They're sitting right there playing Pioneer, playing Modern.
Always playing Pioneer, but other than that, you're exactly right.
That is false.
The only thing I don't really agree with you, and maybe it's just your store in your location. I have probably more people walking in to buy Pokemon who collect Pokemon, and they're looking just for packs to open. We have 16 people last week at our Pokemon event too.
I think Pokemon's different. I think Pokemon Lorcana are different than Sorcery, Cryptic,
and
Genesis, just kidding.
Or
any of the other, or MetaZoo, or any of the others.
I'm pretty confident.
What's the last one you said?
The goat, the one, the box behind you, the red one.
Is that a game?
I'm pretty confident that stores could pivot and lean in more towards Pokemon. But one of the things I think really happens, I know we're really on a rabbit trail, is most people who end up wanting to own a store come from Magic the Gathering too.
100%.
That is
100%.
The DNA of a local game store is so connected to Magic the Gathering and the experience that you had at your store and that kind of stuff.
Even those who say they're not, that's where their roots are. You talked about a couple stores that are kind of live outside that. That's where their roots are. They came up playing Magic at the local game store.
Right. All right. Back to the downtrends though. This is a weird time for a downtrend because we're leaning into the holiday season, which typically is a high sales experience.
I want to push back on that statement.
Okay.
Because making content for 2 years now, I've noticed the same thing. I had the same impression that you had, but I noticed TCG interest from a content, how much I'm appearing in search, how many searches are coming on topics that I cover as you approach the holidays, seem to go down. So have you looked into that? Because my experience has been the opposite. It's holidays fall off and then boom following the holidays, which is weird.
But
that Christmas money.
Yeah, that might be true. Christmas might, but also, I mean, are you talking content or sales?
Well, I wasn't tracking sales last year, but I would assume that they trend the more someone's searching into something, the more people are spending.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
I know in my life, personally, this is me speaking for me. I'm buying stuff for other people, so I'm just in this spending mood. I'm buying gifts and whatever. I'm oh, Amazon. Oh, okay. Boom, here's something for me. It's just I'm gonna give myself a little Christmas present.
I'm buying something for other people. I'm buying something for other people. Boom, me.
Treat yourself.
That's for somebody. Time to equal up that karma.
Yeah. But I think that happens. I think
I'm only buying Lorcana for everybody on my Christmas gift this year, by the way. If you're on my Christmas list, you're getting Lorcana.
God, I hope I'm on your list.
No, you're not. I'm only buying
but you're on the board.
The only thing I'm buying anybody for Christmas this year is a bug assault gun. Have you guys seen those?
Yes.
I
got
wish
one.
you had it last week.
I got one. Yeah, George, last week there was a fly. I should have brought it for the podcast.
Louis hit himself in the head twice trying to kill a fly. It was the greatest experience of my
The
life.
only thing I'm buying any of my family for Christmas is the bug assault gun. They need to be a
Those
sponsor.
things are amazing.
Do you think we could get sponsored? Like, what an off-brand sponsor!
No,
Like that, we
room
could get
for
sponsored.
MVP.
So I found out about those because it was on Joe Rogan. He was talking to some guy who owns a comedy club, and the
The
comedy club
Magic
had-
community went at Joe Rogan this week. Be careful, my dog.
That's
Wait, really?
Be careful,
Why?
my dude.
I didn't say I'm a fan of Joe Rogan. I'm allowed to
Because
listen.
Post
to
Malone was on, and there, it's I don't know.
You don't like posting?
Listen,
I just
people's
ignore it.
hatred of other people is so wild. It's entertainment. Anyway,
Yeah.
he had a guy on that owns a comedy club, and they had a fly problem. And their solution at the comedy club,
a bunch of bug assault guns.
yes, he just has every table has a bug assault gun. So they're like the comedy's going on.
All right.
And they're just
So let me ask you this: you guys walk into a comedy club, and they have a bunch of bug assault guns on the table. Are you staying or going?
I'm
staying. I'm not
coming
shooting
back.
bugs, but I'm defending my honor.
I'm
That
definitely
is my
Really?
table.
Dude.
That table is my land. I am
Okay.
putting my flag on
So let me
it.
ask you another question: you ordering drinks and food?
yeah.
Drinks for
every
sure.
restaurant has bugs.
And I'm also salting your food from the next room over.
You gotta hear the Salt Bay's going down. Speaking of downtrends, Salt Bay restaurants are closing left and right. Apparently,
Yeah, he took a hit after the World Cup.
that was not a great
I just
look.
imagine
What are
myself
you
in a
guys
very
talking
Bradley
about?
Cooper-esque
Salt Bae.
scenario.
What is Salt Bay?
Like the world's most expensive steak restaurant guy.
I don't know. I
Where
don't
he
know who that
does
is.
the salt on the bicep.
It's like you with Lorcana.
His name's Salt Bay.
That was his social media handle, I think.
Oh,
Your name isn't KitchenTableTCG.
that's
GamerGrove.gg / Lorcana Salt.
So what do you think? So I
What's
personally,
the URL? The hidden page. Louis, can you make that a hidden page before the podcast? And it's just my face. Like this.
all right. I think
Good job keeping us on track. I'm proud.
Yeah. I think that a lot of the downtrend personally, and maybe this is just my life because my wife does have student loan debts in her medical industry. I think that a lot of
Her like she's hawking weed on the side of the road. She's a nurse. It's not a medical
she's not a
industry.
nurse. She's
No,
not
I
a
think
nurse
she's-
either.
Yeah, I
What
think
is
you're
she? A
wrong.
nurse practitioner, right?
No, she's a PA.
Isn't she a PA? Yeah.
Yeah, she's a PA.
All right. I don't understand any of these things.
Don't say they're all the same because you're very wrong.
I didn't say the wrong. I said I don't understand them.
Yeah,
That's true.
PAs they do
That
most
as well
of the
as
stuff
TCGs.
doctors do, but none of the risk.
Well,
Like,
all I
no-
know is that your wife is my doctor. That's all I care about. I'll be honest.
she wouldn't prescribe me. I don't want to say that.
So,
She did the right thing, but I was trying to get her to do the wrong thing. All right.
but
Um,
I think you're on. I think you're onto something. We jumped off this, but the
Prescription?
idea that student loans are coming back around is a brand new bill for probably the most marketed TCG community, like by far.
Yeah, like the people who have student loan debts are 30, 35, you know.
When do you
There's
buy
also
Magic
younger
cards?
people,
When do you buy Magic cards? When you get your first job, you're like,
Well-
oh my god, I can afford this booster box.
Right.
Like,
And on top of that, like it was like the pandemic. We didn't have them for a while, and everybody started spending money. You got used
you
to
didn't have it, and you were getting money.
Yeah. So I think, and I think that's also one of the demographics of people who like you're not
Surely for
super-
middle and high end.
Yeah, well, like
Yeah,
you're not super
sure.
well off. Like you're middle class, probably. Like there's a lot of middle class student loan debt. You're middle class, and you're looking to like spend some money and make some money, right? Like
You
there's a
have
lot of
some extra income, yeah.
that prosumer range is that that category. So I think that that's a huge interest. So I think it's really cool because for people who don't have that, I do think there's going to be some really cool opportunities because not all the supply is going to come back to the market. Like I think like we turn this pretty quick. I don't know.
So I asked this to George, and let me leave you guys with a final question before we move on. I truly believe that there's major downtrends coming, and that not necessarily a negative thing. Maybe it's more of a
Lorcana and sorcery
regression
will
to the
save us
mean.
all.
But
I'm
do
sitting in
you
sorcery?
do you think that the people that choose to stay in the space find something like the reserve list or are reignited to their love to something that they know is locked down? And again, I know Wizard should reprint it, whatever. But do you think that they trend towards that, or do you think there's less faith in that because the whole community decides like, hey, collectibles and cardboard just aren't for me anymore. Let me get out of here.
So I'm this is how you know I'm over committed to collectibles in my I'm
This is
constantly
how you know I'm overcommitted to collectibles. But go
I
ahead.
am constantly haunted by the idea of in 20 years, do people really still, with all the technology and whatever, do people really still want physical products? And every time I say that, we get a million comments and a million people say you're an idiot. Everyone's always going to want something physical. And I think for Magic, I do believe people will always want to sit across from each other and play the game, because I'm a firm believer that people like Commander not because they actually like playing Magic, but because they like guys don't know how to sit down with three other friends and talk about life, so they need to do something, and playing a game is a great way to do that.
Yeah, Commander for sure. Yeah. Oh. Well, don't create competition.
Oh, never mind. Bad idea.
No podcast for you.
No podcast for you. A year.
Salt.
I don't want you to do movie. That sounds great.
No, Doom and Gloom. Let's go. When we all die, there's nobody to buy our stuff.
No, I think that's true.
My daughter's getting all this stuff she doesn't want.
Yeah, I mean that'll be the thing.
Are my Magic cards my grandma's little Christmas figures? Is that what's happening right now?
Oh my god!
I mean, that's the thing. They bought this stuff as investments, right? And they went to zero. Yeah, they were this will be worth $1 billion one day. It wasn't. I mean,
grandma.
What I also wonder. Oh god, this is all right. I'm not saying this is the case. I'm saying this could be the case.
You're wondering about it.
I'm wondering about this. When I was at the National Card Show, they had cases of boxes from 30 years ago that were $100, and they couldn't move them. There were probably 12 boxes, and the boxes were enormous. Couldn't give them away. They overprinted to oblivion.
That's the junk wax era, right?
Yep. Are we in that with TCGs?
I think Magic could dangerously be in that.
I'm not as worried about Magic as I am one other TCG.
Well, Pokemon.
Oh, that's a good one.
So, Pokemon's super interesting because Pokemon's definitely printing more than they were 10 years ago. But the demand is also greatly increased than 10 years ago.
But that's not really true. The demand increased with COVID. Before COVID, Rudy shoved it in his bathroom because he couldn't give it away.
Mm-hmm.
It's only during COVID and after Pokemon became the world's safest cardboard investment, which I think is comical, right? The unlimited boxes, $500 a decade ago.
It's a long time.
It's not that long.
It's not that long. When you're. It's a long time.
It's not that long. I mean,
the same thing with George, the same thing
recent that Pokemon became known as the safe TCG.
10 years
Before that,
ago,
you couldn't give it away.
10 years ago, a revised Dual Land was $20.
Okay. What is it today?
Don't remind me.
400?
Several hundred.
Okay.
So that's the case across the board for collectible cards because of the way that I think it's a lot to do because of the way the internet made it accessible for people.
Oh, God.
It's grown. There's a lot of other factors that
I remember hearing the same with Beanie Babies. Once we open up the world market, woohoo! All these little stuffies are going to the moon.
Yeah, but
the Beanie Baby story is terrifying.
Here's the question: are we living in the Beanie Baby era of cardboard?
I mean, maybe, but I don't think it's Beanie Babies came on so fast. They didn't live around long enough to have multitude of generations that became indoctrinated in that culture, right? TCGs have been around now where there's moms and sons, there's fathers and daughters that play TCGs together, that's being passed on. So I think that's going to be harder to break. I don't see the collapse being as imminent.
Yeah, and people didn't live their life for Beanie Babies. But go to my LGS night and you'll see people there who were there last night and they'll be there tomorrow night. And this is what they do. They go to work. They go to Game Grove. They go to work. They go to Game Grove. They have dinner with their family.
Those little figures that your grandma left you when she died.
What do they call them?
Hummels. They came out in 1935.
Okay.
There's generations that love those things.
No clue.
They're worthless.
Yeah.
And the internet came out. We can all now have access to all the Hummels we want.
Yeah, but TCGs represent, and I'm not saying TCGs aren't headed in some negative direction, but TCGs also represent the ability to play a game. They are game pieces as well. So while they are
that's
collectibles,
why people want the Alpha Lotus, because they want to play with it.
No, but it adds a layer of connection to the item.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm not saying I think we're going to get there. I'm just saying I don't think that risk is thought of as seriously as it should be.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's something I've really thought about. But that risk is far higher than people want to believe it is, I think.
Yeah, and this is why
That's
if
fair.
you are investing in TCGs, you have to learn how to take profits and how to like part with the things.
Are you in my warehouse?
We've talked a lot about your TCGs, and there's not much profit discussion. in fairness,
and this is why. Listen, you know who should invest in cardboard? Those who have already invested as much as they can handle in regular things.
Yeah, for sure. Not
financial advice, but I would not put all my monies into cardboards.
That's fair.
Shit.
All right. Are we done with downtrends? I think this will be something we probably are talking about the next couple months too.
Put in your comment section below what your favorite Hummel is. And if you're a member of Josh's channel, we will read it aloud next week.
I want to end with downtrends.
That's dope.
I saw yesterday a Black Lotus, an unlimited Lotus for 10K on one of the Facebook groups. And it baffled me that the person in the top comment said, "Would you sell this for $9,999?" Question mark. I told my friend bet me that a Lotus would never sell for under $10,000, and I want to prove him wrong. And that got me a little bit, which is 10K for a Lotus. I don't that's cheaper than it's been in quite a while. It did have a crease on the bottom, so
but isn't that a rude awakening for the indie TCG secondary market?
Not Lorcana.
The fact that anything could be considered close, anything considered close, is so speculative and the most risky thought. So if you're in this for values,
yeah. It is certainly lots of speculation. It is also supply and demand, though. The supply of an unlimited Lotus is massive compared to what George is already laughing about the comments with the Philosopher's Stone from Sorcery.
All right. That card is purchased at the price it is because of the work the Lotus has done.
Okay.
Yeah, because of the demand for it.
If there's I say this as the person who has believed the most in Lorcana on this podcast by a mile. There is no universe in which a card that's been printed for 15 minutes should be within shouting distance of the most important TCG card ever printed.
Right, but I don't think that the Unlimited Lotus is the most important TCG card ever printed.
It's a version of it.
The Alpha Lotus is, we know the print number of it, 1,100. You can look at it and metric it.
Somebody selling one for 90,000.
That's crazy.
That's pretty cheap.
I think
that ring sale, man.
Any entity should not be anywhere close to the Alpha Lotus. And Unlimited Lotus, the supply it's large. It's
listen.
So that. I'm not saying. I love
Elsa. I love Elsa. I love Frozen. I love all of Disney.
Right, but
do you want to build a snowman?
One of the best songs ever made. Louis hates it probably.
I sing that song to my daughter at least once a day. And
man, a Lotus should be in a different universe.
I'm pretty close to that. But the difference with Lorcana, I guess we're going to compare Sorcery to Lorcana.
I was not doing that.
Lorcana,
we need to move on to the next topic. So what we need to do.
Lorcana is not a timed print. It's not a limited print run. Lorcana,
the D23s are.
Sure, that's fair, and that's something I think could see close to the price of a Lotus, because we an unlimited Lotus, because we know the supply, and it's just a supply and demand issue. I will
Every
fully understand.
indie
Hold on, I want to
TCG
fully understand that it's also highly speculative and it's people looking to flip. That is a huge part of it too.
every I don't want to call it indie TCG. I don't want to get into this in your because even though your Discord says indie TCG.
That's hilarious. I'm not changing that. By the way,
of course not.
I screenshotted that
It's
after
the best
you yelled at me.
Yeah.
the
Yes,
night of that I
Like-
got off the podcast.
Yeah.
Every community says the same thing. We gotta factor in 20 years of growth.
You don't
today.
need to do it.
That's why these cards are worth $4,000. Well, like what? Like,
Yeah.
well, what does that mean? That means it won't appreciate in value for 20 years because you've already priced that all in. That's not the way the market works.
You know
And,
what?
like,
Sorry.
there's a lot of communities that have learned that lesson the hard way,
Mhm.
and like they're still learning it, and they'll continue to learn that lesson.
If they
But
stick
like,
around long enough.
yeah, I mean, like, I like the fact that any of these games has been printed for like 2 years, let alone 2 minutes, are within sniffing distance of an Unlimited Lotus should give everybody a lot of pause, I think.
So we need to wrap this up, but first edition Charizard and Unlimited Lotus are very similar in prices. Like a PSA 8 first edition Charizard is about 10K and an Unlimited Lotus is about 10K. And those print runs are much closer and much more similar to the ideas. And I think if you look at like an indie TCG, perhaps something like a Shatterless Charizard rather than like a first edition type thing would be interesting. Anyway, we can get into that another time. Wilds of Eldraine release. How did it go for you, George?
We sold a ton.
Yeah.
I was surprised after you guys gave me the heart attack of my life 2 weeks ago. After you guys told me the set was going to be GOAT, and then told me it was going to be a dumpster fire. I was very anxious.
People just don't seem to like really.
We sold it. We sold it a lot. We sold about 2/3 of our everything.
Sold out of set boxes, which we've never sold out of set boxes.
That's one of my best takes.
Yeah, the set boxes are in.
People love doubling season.
Yes, George. Welcome to 10 years ago.
People love doubling season.
Listen. What are you going to jump on him? That's a fantastic take.
Thank you.
Like,
Thank you.
Poke a hole in that take. Go ahead.
No, there's no hole. It's true.
Exactly.
Doubling
Great take.
People love doubling season and Elsa and Simba.
People also love money.
George,
like money is good. Sunshine also great.
Do they love Parallel Lives too?
I don't know that card.
Water. I think they're pretty
like
big
water.
on water too.
I got some sparkling.
So
water right here.
We had a lower attendance for this pre-release than any other pre-release in the last 3 sets. Lord of the Rings shouldn't count. March of the Machine though was higher than this.
Why does Lord of the Rings not count?
Because it was successful.
Lord of the Rings is completely, I think, a complete anomaly. It was massive. It was
anomaly.
Anomaly. It's an anomaly. It was huge. Like we can't
made out of enamel.
If we're gonna compare, if we're gonna compare every standard release to the Lord of the Rings set, we're in for a rough.
No, the fact that it's a standard release versus a non-standard release is a fair assessment there.
It's also Lord of the Rings too. Like it was massive. Anyway,
it's like the second greatest IP.
Like, compared to March of the Machine, we were a little bit lower. But the release timeline of this set is really weird too. Like right when all people go back to school is kind of a rough time for a set release, to be honest.
Maybe for your location, I bet game stores in college towns are loving it. Like
that's fair.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's probably fair. Good.
I was amazed, and I got a little nervous about my set booster box take with the Enchanting Tales, and like it's going to carry the set booster box because the collector box really doesn't give you that reason to buy. We've talked about the difference between special foils and serialized cards and things that we actually take to as a collectible community. But man, oh man, even I did not realize how much people would like playing limited with this set. To be able to get these in the draft booster box and cast these cards outside of the commander environment. That has been, from my experience, the talk of the town. And more so than selling boxes, it's been a while since I've heard that. How like the limited experience is a reason to like get out from behind the arena and go to the game store.
You said the key word though, and that word is enchanted. Continue.
We had, picking up off that, Josh, we had on Monday, we stayed open because it was Labor Day. For those of you who are not in America, it's
Get some freedom, son,
yeah, it's a day off for everybody, I guess. Anyway,
in the world.
Somebody shared the history on it in a TCG group in Facebook, and I was like, I didn't read it. I just passed by it.
Don't read it.
I just went past by it. And then I made ribs. It's great.
What are you drinking? Is that the Mountain Dew alcohol drink?
What is it?
Oh, you know what it is.
I know.
I don't.
It's
I
Mountain Dew
walked-
with booze.
Can you show it
I
to the camera?
walked with my daughter up to the store. I saw it and I went, well, I have to get this.
Oh my gosh,
0 sugar.
that's amazing.
It's keto friendly, Louis.
Looks delicious. Oh my
It's keto
god.
friendly. It's got no sugar.
I'm here with
got
my
sugar.
Diet Coke. Isn't there? Never mind. We're getting to. Doesn't all alcohol have grain in it?
I mean, yeah, but not like they don't leave the grain in there.
But
It's not oatmeal.
Louis making this QE beer in West Virginia.
It's not oatmeal.
It's like it
not
tastes a
oatmeal,
lot like
my
bread.
All right. Sorry, I was distracted by the delicious looking Mountain Dew hard seltzer.
It's
They can
it's
put
fantastic.
that in the little fountain at Taco Bell's.
That should be our sponsor, Mountain Dew. Seems like a good sponsor.
That
If
sounds
they had that in the fountain at Taco Bell, I'd never be sober and I'd never leave.
We're
to
we're
Josh's take
spazzy enough.
about Limited. We were open on Labor Day. This is how we got to this tangent, and we had a whole pot of 8 drafting, and we had a bunch of people playing Commander too. But like, they were just playing Commander, and they're like, "Hey, we want to play more Limited." They just started drafting, and like, that's never happened. You know what I mean? Like, people just like it.
People love doubling season.
Great take.
I think
love that take.
I think that
I thought it was a
the
good take.
It is. I'd like prove it wrong. Prove it. Go ahead.
I think that that subset is just perfect. Like Magic needs to just keep that in every set. Like they need to continue to do a subset in every single set.
Is this
I agree.
the best way that they've done? We've talked about standard releases just being about Commander, and it's just about this Commander subset. But the Enchanting Tales subset and the Strixhaven Mystic Archive, and even to some extent the Brothers War artifacts, like that's the best way, in my opinion, to include Commander in a standard release. Instead of making a whole new set of cards in there and a whole new way to play Commander with new strategies and new mechanics and blah blah blah. Let the Commander's players dig into the actual cards of the set and give popular Commander reprints in these subset slots.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I think we're pretty you and I are on the same page often with our conversation about Commander being the thing that Magic cares about the most. But actually somebody told me something pretty interesting the other day, which is they went to Japan, and in Japan they asked the community, like, how do you guys play Magic? And their answer was like all competitive. Like all the LGSs, they're all strictly competitive Magic. They play standard and modern and draft. And
they don't play standard, but like, sure.
No, like that's what they said. I don't know what to tell you. They go,
Shout out to Japan for holding up the entire standard
God,
player.
the Magic scene in
Good job.
Japan has to be wild just because of like the stranglehold of Pokemon in Japan.
yeah,
That's like you have to be dedicated to be a Magic player.
Anyway,
I wonder if that's like considered like an indie TCG in Japan.
No, but listen.
There was a kitchen table TCG kimono. Would it in the Discord? Like, would it have Magic listed under indie TCGs?
Well, first of all, if there was a kitchen table TCG kimono, I would probably wear it on this podcast.
I would also wear it. Why aren't you making swag?
And not much else.
I'd wear nothing else.
It would be a great podcast. May the zoo be with you.
What I was trying
We would
to go
get some
into,
views, and we'd also lose some views.
Yeah, or
we are so fixated on Commander when we talk, in the United States being a very Commander-centric thing. Do you think that Wizards sees that from a global perspective, the value of a lot of like the standard stuff, and that they impact that? I guess not really a question.
yeah,
but I think maybe we are too focused on what's happening here, and we just don't know what's going on in other countries and stuff. But
I think for some games that might be fair. I don't think that's fair for Magic. I think in Magic, there's the United States, or at least maybe it's North America. I know the Magic scene across the globe is large. I'm not downplaying any of the Magic scene, but I would imagine we are in the driver's seat of that seat and the product development and the purchasing of product. I can't imagine we're not.
We're in the driver's seat of TCGs and freedom.
It would be super interesting to see those metrics and see how much that weighs in, but we'll never get them.
No.
Anyway,
No.
Wilds was great.
Wilds was wild.
Listen, it's not selling as well as some of the other sets, but it is. I think this is a set we're still gonna look back on fondly.
Yeah, I think a long-term set like this is probably one of the best of the year, in my opinion, for long-term collecting.
The set box is like in a year, you could convince me where people are like, yeah, give me a Wilds of Eldraine set pack. Why? An Enchanting Tale slot. And I know the pull rates for the list slot for The Walking Dead are super low, but just like Lord of the Rings, like you buy it because why? It's in there. Like that's in your mind when you spend the money. I could see this set living on shelves really, really well. Yeah. Which is rare for a standard set. We don't buy them after they release.
Kamigawa is the last one that I remember that was really continuously out of stock at distro and like seemed to always move on TCG Player. I think the supply issues were probably part of that too back then. But
that's had great cards in it too. Just fantastic cards.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to Doctor Who. We have some information from our sponsor of the video, who is not actually our sponsor, but we'll just keep that joke going. So MVP Sports and Games is a secret distro, and they always leak out stuff. And they said something pretty cool. They claim that...
I'm going to hop that fence, Louis.
They claim that... Doctor Who, whose opening allocations have been bizarre to say the least. Initial collector booster supply looks to be 1/6 of the normal supply. An example, tiny. While commander decks look to be 175%. So if you are anticipating things with their info, not our info, but with their info, commander decks look to be high supply, 175%, and collector boxes super light. So, George, do you anticipate that this might be one of the first sets in a while that we get allocated on collector boxes?
No.
No?
So it'll be time. So it won't be big cuts, is my gut. I just don't think there's a lot of demand.
You think stores are going to order light?
Yeah.
Wait. What? You don't think there's a lot of demand for the Doctor Who commander product?
Stores are going to order light.
I'm there, George. By the way,
that's very different than there not being a lot of demand. Let's go back. Do you not think there's going to be a lot of demand for the
not
Doctor
at all
Who product?
Different. Stores order based on what they think their demand will be.
Bingo. Stores order what they think the demand is going to be.
Like, there is nothing.
If we can all anticipate demand and we're all constantly aware, then I got to have a word with Ravensburger.
God, we could have only discussed Lorcana.
I gotta have a word with if everyone else can know their demand and Ravensburger's got no freaking clue. I gotta have a word with Ravensburger.
So for me,
have another sip there, Mountain Dew boy. Relax.
I actually ordered the exact same that I always order for this set. Which initially my answer was nobody cares about Doctor Who, and
then your comment section, like mine, quickly corrected you.
I don't care about my comment section. I think my comment section is just some Doctor Who community who caught wind of my video and was like, "We have to defend this stupid show that nobody actually watches."
You think you're popular enough to be on the radar of the Doctor Who community?
They got nothing better to do. They watch Doctor Who.
The two of you are wild. Your egos know no bounds.
No, but the real reason. Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't done.
No, go ahead.
The real reason is that
that's the best way to defend being cut off I've ever seen. I wasn't done.
Hold on, boo boo. Sorry. The decks are also 40% new cards, and like I'm gonna crack them open for singles. That's what I'm.
Oh no! It's like, always a coin flip. Are you gonna be happy or mad?
This is like I don't know. We have 160, right? Is it 5 decks or 4 decks? I think it's 4 decks, right? We have 160 new cards coming into the world of Magic. Like this is gonna be the single cards are gonna do, I think, pretty well and be interesting. I don't know anybody. Nobody at my store cares. I don't know anybody who's like, Louis, I want that Doctor Who Commander deck that I want to sit down at my LGS and
Why
play.
is Grandma buying a Doctor Who Commander deck from you?
Is that how
people
British
who
people
watches
talk?
Doctor Who. The show
Is that how British people talk in your mind? Is that what this is?
Probably. That's probably fair. Anyway,
Yeah, I think Spurs will go light on this.
Okay.
We might get cut a little bit. I just don't think it'll be big.
I think stores are going light on Magic product compared to where they were before. It only bites you in the butt if it's Lord of the Rings. And like, if you're a store and you're looking at that value proposition, you're like, I guess I'll lose that time
bingo.
and not
That's
lose the other times.
It's like, that's the math WotC has set up, right? Is that like, it punishes you too hard to go heavy when you should have gone light. Yeah.
So we assume then that WotC knows that demand will be lower. So they print.
Everybody knows their demand, Louis.
Or
Silly
they
Louis.
want to like have artificial scarcity.
Because these boxes everything is priced to Lord of the Rings, I believe. It's the same price point for collector boxes. It's
no, I didn't think so. I'm pretty sure Doctor Who collector boxes are closer to standard.
That's true. Yeah, that's right. It's the commander decks.
The commander decks are Warhammer standard command, not the baller ones. I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure they're the same price as the Lord of the Rings ones were.
Okay.
Which was less than Warhammer.
Sure.
Is that right, George? I think that's the way it was.
Okay. Okay.
So that kind of suggests to me that the power, like if they think the demand for the IP is going to be lower,
I don't think it has anything to do with the IP. I think it has everything to do with just like where the market's at.
Well, that might be a reason, again, why stores order lighter. But I think this product might be giving us exactly what we want to see in future Magic the Gathering sets. Right? It's giving us a heavily printed available product that everyone can play with, and something for people who want to spend an extra buck and take a shot at something crazy, something spicy. And that is, again, according to the information in this article, limited and harder to come by. Now, again, if the 1.75 and 60%, if the base number of that is 400 million, none of it'll matter, right? But I really think this could be a nice balance. And I think this actually shapes out really well.
Yeah.
You don't think so? I think this set's going to do great.
I think this set does good as long as the cards are cards that non-Doctor Who fans say, oh, I have to have that for my, my control deck, my Commander control deck. I need that card. It's a new staple in Commander. Like, if there's that kind of stuff, this set will do really well. I don't believe in the Doctor Who IP to sell something as much as the other stuff, right? Like as much as a typical Magic product.
Sure.
I do think there will be a considerable amount of Magic fans who don't buy this because they don't care about Doctor Who. So they're not going to buy a Doctor Who Commander deck. I think a lot of those people exist.
I think we'll be surprised. Sure, I think those people exist, but I think we'll be surprised with the number of crossover. And this is something that I don't think any of us accounted for.
I was shocked by
Lord of the
Warhammer's
Rings
crossover.
Yeah, exactly. The number of people that are like, listen, I'm a Doctor Who fan, but why do I talk about it here with you guys all the time? That's not my thing. Like, we're here to play Magic.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. See, I wasn't surprised by Warhammer, and I wasn't surprised by Lord of the Rings, because they're both like a fantasy... They're both like a fantasy...
Your revisionist
You
history?
predicted Lord of the Rings to be possibly the best-selling Magic set of all time.
Did I do that?
No. You weren't surprised, so I assumed you did.
No, I said I'm not surprised that people who play Magic the Gathering liked Lord of the Rings stuff, or people
understand.
I'm not talking
I
about
thought you were saying you weren't surprised about the
set.
success of Lord of the Rings. I was like, wow, that's you and Ravensburger. You guys
not
get
what
it.
I'm saying. My point is that people don't like people. They who play Magic probably enjoy something like Lord of the Rings, and certainly Warhammer. There's a ton of crossover because you're in an LGS and you see people playing Warhammer, or you play another game. It's the same kind of.
Yeah.
But like it's
My bad.
not,
Great take.
it's not completely removed from the fantasy world that you are supposedly playing in. I think that's why people didn't like the initially you just mentioned it, the Walking Dead stuff, because it was like, this is happening in 2000, the year 2000 in the United States. Why is this guy here in my Commander game?
I think that's a good take until that point. I apologize. I thought you were saying something different. I was like, if you're going to try to throw yourself into I always knew the Lord of the Rings was going to be this massive success, I was jumping all over that grenade. But I think the reason people didn't like The Walking Dead is...
Guy has got the assassin in the night. This is good.
Listen, I'm right about a lot of stuff. What do you want? What do you want from me? This podcast should be called "I'm Right."
I know you're a lot more. You're a lot more with it.
This podcast should just be three prideful people talking.
Yes, that's fair.
It is just that.
George, unfortunately, if you think this can is affecting me, you've grossly overestimated how much I've actually drank. Sorry. The Walking Dead, though, did not make a splash because...
you're like, I'll show you. I'm an alcoholic.
I've been talking the whole time. Never mind. The Walking Dead didn't succeed not because of the 2000s in America. It didn't succeed because you got 5 or 6 cards that didn't exist in the universe. Lord of the Rings and Doctor Who present a completely different experience for the consumer. You're playing in that universe. When you buy the Lord of the Rings Commander decks or play Lord of the Rings Limited, everything is in that world. When you buy the Walking Dead character for your Commander deck, it's you play Rick Steadfast Leader and then Smothering Tithe. And you're like, well, none of this makes any sense, right?
But hold on. But let's say a Doctor Who card called Doctor Number 43. I just heard they were numbered, right? Is a 2-cost black blue
if it's really good
commander staple that now if I have the new fairy deck that I've upgraded and I want to go all in now, I'm like, oh, that's like the best card for my deck. Now in my fairy tribal deck, I'm playing a Doctor Who card. That will move number 43.
That will move that card. But what's going to initially bring people in and make the product a welcoming experience is the notion that you're going to have this world that you're playing in. Listen, we saw it with Warhammer. How many people have kept the Warhammer decks together? How many people keep the Lord of the Rings sets and stuff together? We're going to see that here. And that's going to go a lot farther. And the reason The Walking Dead didn't go any further is it doesn't have that home.
Okay, I see what you're saying. I agree. Okay. This is a wild one. I think Doctor Who has the potential to be one of the coolest sets in terms of if the cards are good, 40 new commander cards in each set. There's a lot of potential there, and the supply seems smaller. It also, though, I think has the potential to be the biggest failure of the year. I don't know that there's a middle ground for the Doctor Who.
Well, hold on. Aftermath was released this year.
Listen, Aftermath has Nisa, and you can just crack all your Aftermath and make your money. You can. Some of us did it.
What's in the cup?
More Mountain Dew. That's the second one.
That was the fact that you think this could be worse than Aftermath is the...
Oh, Louis absolutely right. I very rarely say that. I mean, I don't expect that, but
Aftermath wasn't that bad, dude.
No, I mean
the supply was so limited, it didn't really affect stores.
If the decks are bad, this is a disaster. Yeah, the decks have to be good and fun. This isn't hard. It's a commander. It's a commander deck set, right? I mean, that's what the set lives or dies by, is those decks.
Okay. So there's no chance. There's not a single chance.
Here we go. Go for it.
Worse than Aftermath.
Everybody, clip this. This is where we break down. Right before we talk about Lorcana.
That's insane.
What?
That's this set could be worse than Aftermath. That's the wildest take I've ever heard.
Josh, you're talking to 2 store owners, right? When I got Aftermath,
surprisingly still,
I was heavily out. I was really allocated on Aftermath. like the number of boxes they printed was low. It didn't lose me. Like I didn't lose a ton of money. If this worked,
that's based on, so your decision for Aftermath was easy to make. Like, great.
no, but like
I don't
this
understand
is a bigger thing. This is more expensive. It's a wider release. It's huge. This could be another Commander Masters type thing where I lose 10 grand. Like that's what this could be. And like I don't look back on Aftermath with anger and frustration and sadness. I look at it with laughter. Like why the heck did they do this? It was stupid. Like it didn't work.
I think they sold like 10 boxes of Aftermath.
It didn't work for anybody, but it didn't kill anybody either. Like this has potential to be really bad.
Yeah, I guess if that's the metric, my point is this is not going to undersell Aftermath.
Warhammer 40K worked because the decks were really good.
That's an interesting one. Will it undersell Aftermath?
There's not a chance.
It won't undersell Aftermath, but like
That's
that's
literally impossible.
At what price, right? The question is like, at what price does it?
Yeah.
Oversell, undersell.
Listen, from my side of the counter, that's not what I'm worried about. Right?
Doctor Who
As the
fans.
consumer.
Oh, sorry. Continue. No. As a consumer, what?
I'm not worried. Most consumers, I can imagine, are not worried about your margins. They're worried about, can I buy the product at a price I'm comfortable with, and are all my friends buying it and playing it? That's what they care about.
I would argue that those are the same things. If all your friends are buying it and caring about it, then it's working well for the store. But I was just telling you that you're talking to two store owners. That's the perspective we come from. Is like I don't look at Aftermath with a negative, and really I don't think you do because you probably didn't buy any. Like you kind of looked at it the same way. Like I just bought March of the Machine. They had serialized cards in there. What do I need this set?
I bought some Aftermath for the shelf just because the box shape is fun.
Yeah.
The epilogue boosters.
But like in Aftermath's defense, it reprinted Training Grounds, which was a card that a lot of people liked, and Nissa is super good and super popular. Like it did provide some good cards, and if this provides good cards, it'll be fine. So it'll be interesting. All right, let's move on. Sorry to all the Doctor Who fans. You can unsubscribe because like there's probably
subscribe here, but become a member of Josh's channel. Continue, Josh.
There's like 3 of them, so that's fine.
Oh, never mind.
All right,
no, that's fine. Still go become a member.
That triples my monthly income. Let's go.
There is as many Doctor Who fans as there are Lorcana boxes printed. Let's transition to Lorcana. I don't know.
You know my favorite Taylor song? Haters gonna hate. But me and KK,
sorry. I'm supposed to start with all the things I was wrong about, wasn't I?
Is shake. I'm gonna shake it off. Baby Lorcana is going nuts, as I predicted.
As crazy as Beyonce's new tour.
No, way crazier.
Queen Bee.
Queen Bee. Lorcana has captured a lot of the attention of the markets. Has it captured a lot of the players? There's 100,000 games played a week on their unofficial online client, which has the art if you download the art pack. And like that's amazing. 100,000 games a week. That's astonishing for like an unauthorized app. Another authorized.
I love that you logged into that app and saw the cards. We're like, why isn't there any pictures?
Is there no artwork?
Why is there no pictures? When you told me that story, I almost lost it.
I didn't know there was a separate thing for the art.
I almost lost it. Like you got to read the whole document.
I don't
George.
read.
So I have
the Louis George story.
I have the Lorcana compared to Magic the Gathering.
So Josh, how's Lorcana selling? Was it doing all right?
You don't want to know.
I do want to know.
No, you guys ostracize my sales data every single week. You absolutely don't want to know.
That is not true at all. God, you are.
When it doesn't go Louis' way, Louis says, "Well, I don't think like TCG player is fair. I don't think that's fair." That's what Louis does. Over $1 million in sales.
$1 million in sales, man.
As of the most recent tally, it has actually outsold Wilds of Eldraine draft set and collector.
That's like 1,000 boxes, right?
It has outsold Wilds of Eldraine draft set and collector
combined.
Mm-hmm.
Is that true? Wait, hold on.
Lorcana booster boxes, gift sets, and a Lumineer's Trove at the point of the last tracking, which was earlier today, is currently outselling by number of boxes draft set and collector for Wilds of Eldraine.
Really?
On TCG Player. Yep.
That's crazy.
Yep. That shocks me.
I have struggled to say it into a microphone. I have checked and rechecked my system repeatedly because I figured something had to be wrong.
Somebody fact check this man.
I figured something had to be wrong.
Are you serious?
That's crazy.
So what does that tell you?
Listen, it tells me that the demand is there at insane prices. Like everyone who comes in here and says,
I'm sorry, has it outsold by number of boxes?
Number of boxes.
That's super surprising.
That's not even like that's a
What is the number of boxes?
It's a little over 5,000 right now. It's a little over, and for those that want to get into my comment section,
There's only been 5,000.
Yep.
TCG player.
No, Wilds of Eldraine.
Draft set and collector, including
Draft set and collector boxes sold. There's only been 5,000 combined on TCG Player.
Yep. Yes.
That's super weird. That's crazy.
Including cases as well. So when I say draft set and collector, I mean draft case, collect, and cases for Magic. Again, they're not super popular. People don't really buy by the case on TCG Player, right?
Okay.
But,
yeah. Wow, that's really shocking. I'll be honest. I did not expect to hear they had more sold than the Magic set.
It's a little bit of vindication when it comes to people who are screaming into the ether, in my comment section especially, that it is all scalpers and all flippers. If it is all scalpers and all flippers, you're not scalping and flipping at these prices, because Ravensburger has openly said, we want to print this thing to the moon. We want it available. We want $144 boxes.
So this is the closest parallel is Louis' favorite game, One Piece, where like they couldn't catch up to demand for about a year until they did.
Right.
Like I don't see them catching up to demand this year.
No, 2023 now.
Hold on, can I say before we get too far away from what Josh just said about you're not flipping this. First off, I want to say the demand is certainly a large amount of organic demand of people who actually want the cards. That I want to make sure I want to say that out there. They also, though, I'm not going to say but. You see how I worked my way around that? They also did come out and say, we will not have boxes until October. So if you are a flipper, you have really no fear of more boxes coming out anytime soon.
That's not accurate. So MJ Holdings said that they're they did not say, but we see them dripping out boxes every week still.
We also see Ravensburger's site creating queues and selling boxes direct from Ravensburger every single day.
It's unclear if they had boxes today or not.
Yeah.
I think they might have a lot of boxes.
Okay. But the large...
they're coming out of the woodwork.
Right. But the large resupply that they are publicly announcing on their Twitter is in October. So if you are I know there's organic demand. You can't say that there's not flippers in the communities that are doing that. We have seen that. We have all seen
You can't say that there's not flippers in any game.
Right. I totally agree with you. But from a flipper perspective, like there's no short term in the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks. There's no short term risk to buying up the product and selling it again in.
Well, so hold on, Boo Boo. Now,
tell me what the risk is.
Demand goes down.
Hold on. I see where you're coming from, but not only does demand go down due to frustration of the prices, but people decide, I'm just going to wait for the restock.
Yeah.
Right? Like I don't want to buy this product till it comes out. Ravensburger said I want to print enough of it. Maybe I have to wait 6 months. Maybe I got to wait 8 months. Whatever it might be, I'm willing to wait to not pay a 3x multiplier.
With all the art on it.
You got the name right this time, too, dude. You're crushing it.
Can we give them the background of this joke, this inside joke that we were joking about?
So I'm very impressed with the Pixelborn doing 100,000 games a week. I think that's to me. You know how we talked about Sorcery, and I said like when beta comes out in 2025, it will not matter what box prices are. All that matters is how many games are being played. The same is true for Lorcana. Tell me people are playing the game, and I'll tell you if it's a success or not. So like the most impressive stat to me about Lorcana by a mile is the number of games being played. You see all these new gameplay video channels being made, all this stuff.
All over the place.
And tons of views. Shout out to Donald, George's favorite one of my friends.
No, we're moving on.
Who got 500 views on his video. He has never had a video go over like 200 views.
Lorcana is going nuts on the views.
He makes a Lorcana game. He was stoked about it. Of
course. Lorcana's goat.
Go subscribe to his channel and join his channel membership. He doesn't have a channel membership.
I only pump you and George.
You're on the board. I added you to the board last week when George was out of town.
What do I get from it? What's the
lackey? Your title, lackey.
And so I was talking about how I hopped on Pixelborn, but I first thought it was German.
That's not what you called it. Yeah,
I called it Pixelborn. Thought it was German. Not German. I found out, not German. Shout out to Germany.
Didn't even go with Pixel Bjorn.
Yes, what I thought. I thought it was like that the thing from Frozen, like Svelte or whatever his name is from Frozen. Sven. And so,
God, that was rough.
This is like my box opening video.
And so then, like, I was like, yeah, they don't have any of the artwork. And then apparently you have to download the artwork separately to play the game, to have the artwork on your card when you play. I did not do that.
Okay. You know what the most amazing part of those stats is? Over 30,000 unique user accounts as of 2 weeks ago. And the application issues you a warning. If you install the application on a Windows machine, it issues you a warning saying Windows cannot verify this software. And people are still like,
it was okay, Josh. I'll be honest. I almost called you.
People are still like risking it.
Gotta get my Lorcana in.
Risking it, going for it. That knowing what it takes to get a user to download, install, and use an application, and then to get them to tell their computer, no, I'm sure it's fine, trust me, is amazing.
And also, like, the Play Discord is now bigger than any indie TCG Discord.
The third-party app, Pixelborn Discord itself, it might be bigger than all of them combined.
I mean, like, it's stunning.
It's not an
like,
indie TCG.
It's just, even though according to your Discord it is, it's just like the game's been out for 5 minutes, and like it's already capturing a lot of this attention. Like, here's the test. There's 2 tests for me. Like, let's talk about going forward. There's 2 tests. Do people continue to play the game in 3 months? And also, we have seen game after game fumble the second set.
Yeah.
The follow-up act is really hard for TCGs.
Right.
Will they nail the second set? I think they will. I know Louis will talk about the guy making WWE or something again, but like when you talked about the designer who made the WWE game, you didn't like it very much. I tend to think that the designers will nail the second set. We know that Winnie the Pooh will be in it, we think, based on the leak he's from France. Shout out to Lorcana France. We're pumped. Lorcana community doing great. Game is GOAT.
I have some crow to eat. First, I want to give the channel Scruffy Looking Gaming, because I should have said that earlier. So if you want to subscribe to Donald's channel, he does have good decks. Anyway, I have some crow to eat. I want to say a couple things. I got wrong. I thought that they were going to have to print an outrageous number of boxes in order to support. One of the things I said on the podcast was that boxes are going to come down way down in price because they will have to print an outrageous number of boxes and sell them to distro in order to make up for the cost of the licenses and stuff for Disney. I think I got that so wrong. It was like the exact opposite. I don't fully understand how they got the demand for the product. They must have thought the demand was going to be incredibly lower, because they seem like
surprised.
They seem very surprised. Yeah, that's a great word. They seem to be scrambling, which, like, listen, I'm not sure which one of those is better. I think, though, like, the demand for this, you can't look at. I got it on the screen. This is Pokemon compared to Lorcana, and last week it was the same. Like the
fact that you're putting Google Trends charts up just makes me. I can't believe this is happening. Can't believe this is a thing.
Google Trends is the only thing that matters, right?
I can't believe this is happening.
Lorcana compared to Magic the Gathering, Lorcana was double Magic the Gathering search last week. But here's what I want to say: like,
goat.
I am I want to eat crow on that because I did think that was a big issue. I do want to say though, I think that this is a very, very high risk short-term investment. I think it's non-existent.
It's a
Hold on,
terrible investment.
Let me say it.
Sorry.
I still think the investment is non-existent long term until like they have to keep this if they want to be a TCG and they want to satiate
Nice.
the demand and grow this, they have to get boxes, and you can't have your second set without the cards from the first.
We don't know that.
Yeah, that's right. So
Well-
I do think though, Josh made me clue on this earlier today. If the seal missing from the box is a huge deal, but if they do start sealing the boxes, are sealed cases of the first wave that is unsealed, is that the bread and butter of the collectible Lorcana market?
buddy, shh, my friend, my brother in cardboard, stop talking into a microphone. Shout out Switzerland. Switzerland is goat.
Is that the secret? My real fear though is how do they keep this excitement going? Like
I just like my argument the whole time for the last year has been like people just love Disney. Like there's automatic hype built into every set. Like people will want the characters of the next set.
Mm-hmm.
Like people love Disney.
So do you think that continues if people can't sit down and actually enjoy the game? I know the online client is going crazy and there's a bunch of stuff, whatever. If people can't actually sit down and play the game with their friends and have that real life experience, do you think that loses some of their lightning in a bottle that they're going to miss out on or not?
I think there's a moment when they will lose the trust, and that will be when it falls apart. Right now, they get the benefit of the doubt because we trust that they're going to fix this stuff. And we're going to talk a lot about this in the sorcery section. Like I have a lot of thoughts on the sorcery delays. Surprising, I know. But and Ravensburg right now has a ton of trust built up. Like they built a good product, they got the right licenses. Like they have a lot of built-in capital, social capital, that they've spent some of with some of these issues. When that balance goes to zero, people are like, I don't trust you're going to give us boxes on time. I don't trust you're going to give us the right number of boxes. I don't trust you're going to choose the right characters. Then it could fall apart. But so far, they seem to have done the right things overall. They've produced a good game. And so they've earned a little bit of leeway. And also, and I'll say this again, I have no clue how many boxes they should have printed. If you told me they were outselling Magic on TCG Player, I would have thought you were crazy.
Yeah.
I would have thought
if you would have told me that Magic only sells 5,000 total boxes of a standard set on TCG Player.
The last week, this week in Magic normally goes crazy.
Okay.
You see 35 to 50% of the entire pre-release and sales up in this last week before official release.
Gotcha.
I never would have thought that's I was and am very bullish on Lorcana. I never thought that we'd be comparing them to Magic and Pokemon numbers on set number one. That's crazy.
The medium is even more interesting. I think you guys are missing the biggest aspect of where it's selling. We talk all the time. What does Lorcana do? It speaks to the wide audience. Mm-hmm. But where are these boxes selling? These boxes are selling on TCG Player. Well, who's frequenting TCG Player? Not Lorcana's primary audience, I would imagine. They're also
selling on eBay, though.
And you can see
the sales data is... But the sales data...
You're saying the volume is just...
Yes, the volume is people like us, which is not Lorcana's primary target. But Louis, I want to push back on something you said, and this is something Lorcana does better than a lot of games we've discussed in the past. There really isn't a lot of care, or it seems to be a lot of care about the high level or competitive scene or prizing They don't care. And the reason I think Lorcana has a little bit of leeway in the are people going to get frustrated when they can't sit down in person and play the game take is because I've played now double-digit games with just the 2 starter decks. I have. And with a 4-set-a-year model, it's enough to keep me interested. I still have fun with the characters. I find that I can connect through cardboard with people who otherwise wouldn't be open to the idea. I'm more willing to play those type of games. And then you move on to the next thing, play the new characters and things like that. So even the starter deck experience, when it's tied to something you have this nostalgic love for, and it's something that, listen, we all are constantly trying to get people who don't like trading card games into like the things that we like. And if that becomes a way to do that, we're only going to love it more. So I'm less locked in on that concern than you are. But I do agree. Ravensburger has dropped the ball what feels like repeatedly with this game. And it's succeeding in spite. It's just still going crazy.
I agree with I think I agree with what you're saying. I listen, like I certainly agree with the deck thing. Like I got my mom and my sister to play a trading card game. That's a feat that I have been trying to do since I first played Magic in 2000.
You should get a medal.
That was good. So I want to end the Lorcana segment. Do you guys have anything to say before I say something? To close,
am I going to respond to your nonsense, or is it right?
It's not nonsense. I think the biggest George and I have disagreed a lot on Lorcana historically on the podcast.
We have
talking this week, and we have been since the podcast 2 weeks ago. George and I have been very intentional in our communication with each other.
Oh my god, are people? I didn't bully you like last week, like Josh did.
I can't believe that comment. That was the wildest thing.
I heard you were a bully.
Do you remember when we used to pull a comment at the end of the video and talk about it?
That was the closing crazy comment section. That was the best segment of any podcast. That was so much fun.
That was the best
podcast.
Those viewers loved it.
It got comparable numbers.
Yeah, we had as many viewers.
We've done the math on this.
We did.
It's comparable.
Anyway, I think that
I almost said something I was going to regret, Josh.
The best part of this is my audio just cut out when he's going on whatever rant he went on.
Nope,
great.
Didn't do it.
I always was comparing Lorcana to Magic and like that they were going to be competing with Magic and Pokemon. And I think the conversation about is Lorcana an indie TCG 2 weeks ago made me also realize like you guys saw this as something that was competing with more of the games that other types of games that we had talked about, a lower end on that. And like I thought that they were going to have to print into a Magic Pokemon-esque number scene, and that was going to take them far longer to grow the player base to that. And I think that's where my disconnect was and where I went wrong is like they seem to have done the opposite of that, printed to what an indie TCG, like some of the top indie TCGs we've talked about are printing. And like the demand is just skyrocketed way beyond that. And so I think that's where I got things super wrong is like the way that people view the game is anyway, that's where I feel.
It lives outside of the rules of all these other trading card games. And I get this all the time. Josh is he loves Lorcana, but he doesn't understand. Like, no, I understand. What I think people like that don't understand is they live in our world. And I'm trying every day to accept this, is it lives outside of my world. And the reason for its success is because it goes wider than my trading card game, what I've always accepted as someone who bounces around and likes a lot of trading card games. It just goes wider than that. But I want to end the segment on some Lorcana FUD. So if you want to respond to that, you can go ahead. But I want to end on some FUD.
George, you have a response to me?
No, I'll hold off until Josh is done putting up the goat.
So as one of Lorcana's premium and prominent content creators, myself, wow. I like to stick to the truth. Well, if you're gonna do it with sorcery, I'm just gonna pick the better game. Like, dude,
I'm not a content creator. That's
don't worry. I'm just gonna do my
I don't
thing.
call myself the premier content creator for sorcery.
First of all, I said one of the. First of all, and listen, I don't get any other validation from my YouTube channel, so let me talk about it like it's real. Okay, back off, man. If they are using so much effort and so much energy to go back and be like, oh no, we underprinted the first set so much, and filling up all this extra time reprinting the first set, and they're a 4-set-a-year game. Is this going to affect the print run of set 2 and possibly set 3? Are we going to consider to see Ravensburger fumble and underestimate their demand?
I think that's the wrong question.
I don't think they have enough time. I don't think they can.
That's the question: is can they get enough print time?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't.
Yeah.
Their initial bumble is going to cost them for sets to come.
Pokemon Chinese printer.
If Lorcana starts printing in China, George is going to like split in two on the podcast. He's actually going to split down the middle in two, and the podcast is going to be George arguing with himself.
One of my first one I go to is Disneyland in China.
That's my favorite timeline. 100%.
It's just going to be George
says,
and George.
I want to be very clear here.
It's going to be George and George. Just go back and forth.
The other thing I got wrong is Disney support. Them being in the Disney stores, huge. I mean, I don't think I necessarily got wrong. I think really what I said is like, show me when they do that, and like prove to me that they'll do that, and it will be successful. Is I think the phrase that I use.
I think it was might have been successful even if that didn't happen, but it has 100% helped.
Yeah, that might be fair. But like, I think like having Disney support fully and not just being a licensed game was a question mark that we had 6 months ago. We didn't know exactly how it was going to work out. Like they didn't put. Remember when we saw the card back and there wasn't the Disney logo, and we were like, "Oh, is this just a license thing, or is Disney going to be up the back of that?" And like being in Disney stores, like, and somebody said at my store when they do Disney promo day, like a Disney promo day at stores, where like that's the only time, like that's going to go crazy. Like that type of stuff's going to be nuts. So
you did say, to your credit, you're like, if this ever shows up on like Disney Plus as like an ad, it's going to be nuts.
Yeah, like. Yeah, that's where I am. So, yeah. I just think it's a lot different than what we anticipated, and so cool. You just said that you didn't think it was going to be competing with Pokemon and Magic, and now it is. You don't think that's fair?
I'll be very intrigued if that keeps up with the community. Pokemon, like, so
you can't compete with Pokemon and Magic.
I have thought too much the last 48 hours about like Pokemon. I don't want to get into it this podcast. It's already like midnight.
We're going to talk about that next week, probably. So, all right, let's move on because we gotta go.
I want to hear about the Scooby last week. What did you say about sorcery last week?
I was wrong, everyone. I want to come out and say another reason I was wrong. Last week I was.
Wait, is BGS accepting cards yet or not? That's all I need to know.
They are.
Okay,
BGS and CGC are official.
Every time you say that into a microphone, it goes poorly. Are you sure about this?
Are you sure?
Listen,
wrote the comment section below.
They announced it. So the other thing I got wrong was that remember last week when I was like, Sorcery's doing a really good job of keeping things.
Sorcery gets it. They get
it. They're delaying beta, which is embarrassing for them and also for me now. So that's great.
Well, it's embarrassing for you, sure.
So, can I ask you a question? Do you think they're giving you bad information to humiliate you on this podcast?
They didn't give me any information. I just trusted Rudy. Rudy screwed me, buddy. I guess, he thought maybe I was going to pull a stone and I was going to be a real sorcery creator, and he was getting scared.
All right, so it's delayed until October, right?
November 10th?
November 10th, yeah. October was
supposed to be. Is that when does Lorcana's second set come out?
No clue. Is that November? Are they going to be able to play?
I think now that you say it out loud, it might be close.
I think it's November 17th, I thought.
That's crazy. What is that face for?
Mono, baby.
I don't think these games are competing in the way that
even if they're not competing, every game is competing, right?
I mean,
every game is competing for space.
So I do think part of the delay for sorcery was wrapped around the others. Like they have a lot of other announcements in that same thing, right? You have your TCG player announcement. You have if TCG player needs the space, like the other big one is the Lord of the Rings release for Magic is November 3rd, I believe.
Nobody's done that.
Huh? That's gonna be huge.
That might be the surprise of the year. Yeah. That's kind of popping off.
So like you have to figure out when to release it. Let's talk about should they have delayed it or not. The reason they gave was they wanted the worldwide release to happen at the same time.
I don't think it matters the reason. The answer is yes, they should have delayed it.
Yeah.
I'm going to put a huge caveat on that, though. So if they're not, like, we learned this from Cryptic.
Mhm.
You want to delay versus produce a substandard product.
And you want to announce that delay.
Yes. Like, they did the right thing by delaying if they felt they had to delay it.
Yeah.
I don't, there's a lot of rumors, speculation about why they delayed. At the end of the day, if they felt they had to delay, delaying it was the right thing. I will put a caveat on this. Are they considered an NDTCG, Louis, or no?
Yes, they are.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. I didn't know. I know.
I approve of that. I approve.
Indie TCGs tend to not fix their problems. They have to fix this problem. And I don't say that just because, like, it sucks that delays occur. That's true. But if you're going to do one set a year, if you're going to do 1/4 of the sets of every other TCG, basically, you have to have your timing down right. Because if it's no longer a year between sets, now it's 14, 16 months between sets.
Yeah.
It becomes even worse.
Especially for stores who are going to really back this and be on board and plan a year calendar and be like, hey, October is going to be sorcery month and we're going to really lean into that. And you have a whole calendar, based around some of that stuff. That's a big deal.
I think delaying it's the right move. I just the optics also aren't great. The optics aren't super great. I mean, it was the right move. It's just it sucks for the community.
So
yeah,
I don't know. I look at beta, and maybe I'm wrong on this. I've always looked at beta as that's when sorcery's released. Alpha to me has not counted as the release of sorcery. It's the Kickstarter stuff. Beta to me is sorcery's release. It's when somebody from the public can walk into a game store and buy a sorcery card. And to me, this gave me confidence in sorcery's team. And I know everything George said and everything I think you think and have said to me both publicly and privately, Louis, about delays are tough and it is stressful and there are, some things aren't great. It shows that they understand the impact that their release needs to have. Leaning into the community they're trying to build of people that are wrapped around this idea of being tied to this set and these cards and having a deeper connection and actually loving the things that you open, that release night is going to be important. It's going to take you back to the midnight releases of Magic. We talked about earlier, the people who came up Friday Night Magic and going to the midnight release of World of Warcraft games outside of a GameStop. You're going to feel that same pull. And that meteor of a release for sorcery has to land hard because it has to leave a big enough crater where you're aware of its impact, you feel the pull back to its center, and you want to relive those moments. So in that sense, it shows me they understand the community they are trying to build, and they're willing to do what it takes to get this right. And maybe that's reading too far between the lines, but that's what I took away from it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I agree with your take that this is their official release. I think that's a fair take too. George, a Kickstarter, it's different.
Kickstarter release.
Your attitude towards Kickstarter is baffling to me. Kickstarters that's what you're doing. You're Kickstarting.
The number of people who know TCGs exist.
$4 million Kickstarter. It's not like it was me in my mom's basement being I got the only box of sorcery ever printed. They have $4 million kickstarted.
But they are trying to be bigger than that.
They produced more than a lot of the indie TCGs we used to cover, in Kickstarter. At the end of the day, they produced a ton of boxes, and they deserve credit for that. Right. But it also means calling that not a release, I think, is a little strange.
It's definitely different. But I think this is when I think they have to show that they understand distribution and that they have to this is more important in my opinion. It's bigger.
It's way more important. That's not the question.
And I think it feels more official, I guess is the phrase.
I will say it's weird that Rudy showed the palettes. That did not feel super good. That Rudy's look at my sorcery beta.
It's gonna be early.
Then, the day later, it's delayed for 2 months, and you're
I called myself a prominent Lorcana content creator. Do you think YouTubers don't flex? Last week, Louis did a segment just so he could show off his BGS grades. Listen, YouTubers flex, buddy. This is not new.
That's
a weird flex.
Well,
Is
he
it
also
though?
he's trying to
I have
hype up
stuff
his
you don't
sale.
have.
Hold on. Rudy is on 100% just trying to remind everybody to save money for if you want sorcery. I'm gonna have a naked girl promo card. Like that is on 100%.
Wait, is he really?
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's like the.
he
the
says
shtick.
it every time he talks about sorcery. That's what he's trying to do.
That's not Lorcana approved.
But so I think I want to go to their reason. Having a universal launch, I think, is perfect in what they need to do, and I'm glad they delayed to have a universal launch. Seeing a particular store or a country or whatever have product before everybody else
Like
sucks,
Rudy.
and it makes you feel like, I when Canada had their boxes,
Yeah, it made us hate Canada for
I
like a
was
month.
like, I'm more
I still
important
do.
than Canada. We're better at hockey. We should have boxes first. But like, at the end
Way
of
more
the day,
freedom too.
Yeah.
Like they
Right.
just live off of our spillover freedom.
And they have no Buckies. There's no Buckies in Canada.
So
Is that true?
I have no idea. I'm
Why is it a
assuming
country?
I'm
Why is it a
assuming
country?
it's not really.
I think that doing that and having a universal release is a win. And that's great. I do think though, like they have to I agree with George. They have to get this figured out for the next set. We can't have distribution questions. We can't have allocation issues. We can't they have to figure out their communication. They can't wait for them to communicate to us. They need to communicate and intentionally make sure things are going well at a distribution level. And that's hard, but like they have
Just because it's hard doesn't mean we don't expect it.
if you want to be if you want to be a game that actually works, unlike a lot of the other indie TCGs where the distros just don't care and they don't do anything, like you have to put the work in. So
2 seconds before you go, George, they're cashing in on something you brought up earlier. It's a lot of that community confidence that they've built up. They're cashing in on some of that every time this happens, and the well could run dry.
yeah, and I will say I've had no cancellations of beta as a result of this, which surprised me. I anticipated more people would be frustrated, and zero of that. But it's interesting.
I think it's the right decision. Again, I want to reiterate that. I find it very strange, but I find it particularly strange because like Rudy had the pallets. Like I'll be I keep going back to that. I'm like,
that's not that strange to me. That's not.
like how did he get the pallets? Somebody shipped him 2 pallets.
Also like how long does it take to get stuff printed? But they also mentioned a lot of stuff in there too, right? They mentioned the store kit. So like, was that part of getting all that stuff together? That could have been different than the beta. This is just speculation, but the store kits, and also globally, right? Like if some distro in Europe was dragging their feet and didn't do what they needed to do or whatever, now if you want a universal release,
I love that we're just throwing Europe under the bus for this.
Also, don't throw a distro under. Don't throw a distro under the bus for this. Like, listen, let's say that it's a good decision, but it's not. This is not at the fault of a distro. I'm not going to put that at their
France's distribution system, and
well, that's what I was just saying, Josh. That's what I was just saying.
Like,
they need to not have to wait for distro to do something. They need to be on the ball, right? That's their responsibility.
Yeah, I don't think this one matters if the next set's delayed. If the next set doesn't come out in 12 months,
yeah, no, I totally.
I think it's probably
totally agree. Yeah,
listen, like it's gonna be a real issue.
You don't want to be. It's always something game, right? Like where every single release
we've seen that already. We've read that book.
Yeah, we've read that book. You don't want to be every release. It's like, okay, what's the problem? What's the announcement I'm going to get now? Like the best release comes with no announcement from the company.
And I'll be candid, like it's frustrating for me because like I've said this publicly, like it's the game I enjoy playing the most for an indie TCG.
Yeah.
Like
you want to play it, you don't have cards.
Yeah.
I mean I have the starter decks.
Right.
They have. I mean this. I know people think I'm a hater, but I'm a lover. They have a unique opportunity to really kind of do very well in the indie TCG space because they're going after casual play.
Yep.
Yeah.
But that means that the casual player won't care about the delay. But who will care is the store.
Right.
Yes.
And so they have to figure this out of like stores. And I do think you're right that like the two things they added are these store kits, which I think look really good. And again, I've said this the whole time. Like the margins on this for stores is incredible. It's great margins for stores. If the prices stay high.
Right.
And they're doing TCG player. And that's another big thing too, right? That's how people will build their decks.
You said something on the phone today that I think is that indie TCGs live or die by TCG player. Like,
well,
we saw
accentuate the direction.
We saw Grand Archive go nuts with TCG player. Box prices went skyrocketing because of the demand that it generated and the advertising that it did. We've also seen things, like Cryptic went on TCG player. It's been rough. It's been rough on the market because it provided more people a way to sell stuff, and if the demand's not there, then it tanks the prices because there's a public-facing thing. My website, GameGrove.tg for Sorcerer Singles. It's hard. It's hard to advertise for that. People don't know that it exists. Like, I have to make videos. I have to do whatever. But like with TCG Player coming out,
I have to do work to advertise my website.
Compared to TCG Player, like just being a way for everybody who cares about Sorcerer to find something, it could generate more demand, or it could be a thing. So it's going to be super interesting. I don't know. At the end of the day, that's what's going on, and we'll see what happens. But
all right, yep, right decision. We just hope they get it together.
Yeah, you get one of these, I think.
Well, this is their second, so hopefully they get two.
Well, it's their second, but it's the same thing. So this is actually their second beta delay. Don't forget that.
I know this, and now Kickstarter was delayed 2 or 3 times.
Kickstarter is still delayed for some people. So
I've read those posts as well. That astonishes me. That blows my mind every time I read those.
It's cool. It's cool.
You get Kickstarter a non-thing.
It's not an official release.
That's what happens with Kickstarters. Just because you've never backed anything on Kickstarter, George.
I have. Where's my
when you back a Kickstarter, you should not expect to get product.
To get your MetaZoo decks from a year ago.
I have no idea. Haven't gotten those yet.
You haven't still gotten them. Right.
Wait, I haven't gotten my decks yet.
You forgot about them, which is what happens with 50% of Kickstarters.
Oh my god, I have not gotten my MetaZoo decks yet.
Anyway, all right. This is a great podcast, everyone. Thank you for watching and listening. Hit the subscribe button. Go and listen to us.
I totally forgot about those.
Spotify. Go subscribe to Josh's channel and pay $5 a month for one extra video. And
4 videos a month, dingus.
Oh, well, one more week. And go subscribe to George.
And everybody email Mike to get me my decks, my poker decks. I forgot about those entirely.
What if Mike gets 150 emails? What?
Still won't have my decks.
150 emails.
That was $4,000 I think I kickstarted that thing for.
Hit the like button on your way out. Share this podcast with your friends. And remember to be kind to the people around you. May the zoo be with you.
I don't think I got my decks yet.